40.
You would like, you can make me admin and we'll allow everyone else in.
Okay, let's do that. So make Model Mongo admin. More. Make co-host, I think it is. Yeah. Okay. And Model Mongo has his hand enthusiastically raised for reading. Okay, Nama Om Vishnu Badaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Sunyavari Prashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome. Just join us is Mother Sahachari. Mohini Gopika, welcome back.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, it's been a long time.
No problem. Enjoy whenever you can. Don't worry.
Yeah, I've been away, but I'm working at the moment, so I'll join when I'm free, for sure.
Okay, no
Hare
problem.
Krishna.
All right, let's share the screen. Share the Bhagavad Gita. Did I bring it up beforehand? I did. I'm sure I did. No, I didn't. Okay, you're going to have to wait a minute. I'm going to have to come out of here and bring up my Bhagavad Gita. 1 second.
So in the meantime, Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is Jayadvaita Swami giving class tomorrow?
I don't know. It should be up on our announcements, no?
Yeah, there was an announcement, like, those poster announcements, which said it was tomorrow. But on the temple schedule online, it hasn't got it. The ISKCON London website. And usually they post that poster like the day before as well, just to remind people, but it wasn't reposted. So
yeah,
I'm kind of, I don't know.
I don't know either. If anyone here knows any more further details about that, if I hear something definite, yeah, I can let you know if he is giving class.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's try sharing again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Okay, you see, one. I should prepare beforehand. Now let me just. I want to get the double. I want to get the full screen up. So just bear with me one more minute again. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Getting there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Dun 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 dun. You should have the Bhagavad Gita there. Yeah, double screen. Great. Fantastic. Yeah. Hare Krishna. All right, so last week we finished on a very important verse, one of my favorite verses, which exemplifies the title of this chapter, the most confidential knowledge, which is the most confidential knowledge, speaking about pure devotional service. Not every verse is directly related to pure devotion. It may be indirectly related. But this verse, along with 14, Anantash Chintayam, no, along with 14, Satata Ketayantomam, devotees are always engaged in worshipping you with devotion. And this verse, Anantash Chintayantomam, verse 22, and also verse 26 and onwards. All right. So this one we read last week, Anantash Chintayantomam. And so this week we're beginning on text 23. Okay. So did I offer prayers to Prabhupada? I did. Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, Mother Mongol Prabhu, you can begin. Let's see what adventures we can have in this reading this evening. Hare Krishna.
Text 23.
Yes.
Yepi anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayan vitaha tepi mam eva kaunteya yajanti avidi purvakam. Translation. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti. But they do not so, but they do so in a wrong way. Purport. Persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods, are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me indirectly. Krishna say, for example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does not without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officer or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and the directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidya purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods.
Okay. Any immediate questions that come from this?
Well, certain people worship demigods because they achieve things quicker than going to Krishna, in a way, thinking they will achieve quicker.
Yeah, and there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, I think there is a verse where Krishna specifically says that in order to satisfy their immediate desire, then they may worship the demigods. Yes, but what they get from the demigods, as we, because is material and is temporary, as in the position of the demigods. It's also a temporary position which different jivas occupy. But yeah, so there's these two words. What's this? Where you get immediate satisfaction, or you get or the results come after some time. Forget the Sanskrit. Anyone remember the Sanskrit words for that? Where the results are immediate. They come to mind in a minute. Yeah. So there is, if the worship is done correctly, then they may get some result, maybe immediate result, but what they get, as again we said, is temporary. Yes.
But do the demigods also receive something in that way? Or I think you mentioned once that the demigods, when you worship a demigod, also the demigod will benefit, or it will, no?
Not exactly. I mean, what's been mentioned beforehand is that actually it's that they are worshipping Krishna from the perspective that the demigods are part of Krishna's universal body. 330 million demigods. They're all acting on behalf of and under sanction of the Supreme Lord. And it's considered to be worship or indirect worship of Krishna because of that fact, and the fact that the worship is actually being accepted by the super soul. and it's the super soul, i.e. Krishna, which gives the actual result. So in other words, why not go directly to Krishna himself? And that's what Prabhupada emphasizes in the purple. So the demigods, do they get benefit? Well, they're just engaging their specific duty under the direction of the Supreme Lord. They're just executing their duties for those who are less intelligent. Sounds quite intense, quite, yeah. And that, yeah. Yeah.
But do they engage because they don't know? Probably there is. They know there is a supreme God, which is Krishna, but maybe they don't have enough information, probably, and that's why they worship quick. Let's go and worship, do a puja for I don't know, any other demigods.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. And I'll just read something here. Some others worship Indra and others as part of their practice in karma yoga. Okay. Though they predominantly worship other devatas, they are also your devotees, since the devatas are your vibhutis. So they're shaktis of the Supreme Lord. They're representing the Shakti, or they are Shaktis of the Supreme Lord. Why did they not get liberation then? Rather, you said, they again take repeated birth and death. That's 921. And men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. That's mentioned in chapter 7. So this verse answers, yes, they do worship me. Tamam eva yajanti. However, they worship me without the rules for attaining me. Avidi purvakam. So vidi means the rules, avidi means doing it wrong. So they return to the material world.
Because only 3 beings can give liberation, isn't it?
What?
Lord Krishna, Lord Yamaraj, I think, and I don't know, someone else. No?
Only Krishna or his Vishnu Tattva expansions can actually give one liberation from this cycle of birth and death.
Or maybe I wanted to say bhakti. Sorry, bhakti.
Yeah. So it's only Krishna and his Vishnu Tattva expansions that one can become, that worship of, one can become liberated from birth and death. Yeah, and Prabhupada, he's paraphrasing a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam here. Yata tamulon nena nishchanena tripyanti skanda pusha pushaka. Mano parashatya chendriyanam tataiva anam achyuta ija. So this verse mentions that simply by watering the roots of a tree satisfies the trunks, branches, and twigs, and as supplying food to the stomach nourishes the body and the senses, simply by worshipping the Supreme Lord. Yeah, because all the demigods become satisfied. Yeah, so that Prabhupada's paraphrasing that verse here. Similarly, the process, yeah, he says, for example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree, without pouring water on the root, he does so without, as you mentioned, Mother Mongol, without sufficient knowledge. Yeah. One has to follow the laws made by the government. So, although demigod worship is there in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, it is described, yeah. Yeah, and it's very, very complicated to actually worship them according to the rules and regulations. It's a very complicated affair. And it's a vidipurvakam. Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments here? Sometimes our devotees come from backgrounds of worshipping devas, sometimes going back in their family tradition for many generations, worshipping Lord Shiva, mostly Lord Shiva, maybe others. you know. But
Lakshmi Devi.
Hare
Lakshmi,
Krishna, Hare
yes,
Krishna Prabhu.
Haribol.
Prabhu, I was just thinking most of the demigod worshippers and Kartikeya worshippers, they keep saying, oh, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, I am the Kartikeya. So it is vice versa also. So Kartikeya is Krishna, you know. They add another sentence.
Yeah,
Then,
Krishna says, of fishes I am the shark.
yeah,
Of world as a rebel. That's wrong. Well, that's quite good. Of immovable things I am the Himalayas.
yeah. But this is 10, I think 10th chapter. He says about with the Brahaspati. So once I remember one lady said, yeah, Bhagavad Gita, yeah, because Krishna says, I'm the Kartikeya. So Kartikeya is Krishna. Krishna is Kartikeya. I said, I don't think Krishna says that other way.
Yeah, interesting. They say that. So it's a different. See, they've taken it in the wrong context because that's
Exactly.
describing his vibhuti shaktis. You know how
Yeah.
his power is manifest, or how or how his shaktis can be
It-
appreciated. But as
Yeah,
far
it's
as
a
worship,
military army.
if they're quoting Bhagavad Gita, then you should take them to this chapter, chapter 9, and also chapter 7, where Krishna clarifies the
Yeah.
position. Yeah.
One
They
is to
pick
be
up-
the powerhouse.
They just pick up what is convenient so that they can refute, you know. They add a sentence extra to what Krishna says.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
One is to be the powerhouse and one is to be a battery and be charged by the powerhouse.
Yeah. And so the powerhouse is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. It's a nice description. It's just, yeah. So interesting. Some Prabhupada also says to offer bribe to the officers is illegal.
Yeah.
So interesting. Stare in the Vedas, but actually, as you know, the Vedas are vast, and they're full, and also to accommodate the material desires of people in general, but actually a deeper study of the Vedas under a realized soul than one, as Krishna says in chapter 15, text 15, that he is the compiler of the Vedas. He is to be known through that whole path of Karma Kanda. The idea is that one should come to worshipping the Supreme Lord. Yeah. All right. So that was. Any other questions or comments from anyone else on this? Otherwise, we can read another verse. I'm just. Yes.
I think would be good this verse to be explained in classes as many times as possible for new people when they are coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, with people coming from a Hindu, from a demigod worship background, but you have to be a bit careful how you might preach in this regard. You know, we have great respect for the demigods. So yeah, there's one book by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and the introduction to that book, he really speaks strongly about those who worship the demigods rather than Krishna. It's a book on ritual. It's a book on a different samskaras that Vaishnavas will follow. As you know, the samskaras, generally the performance of samskaras in Vedic ritual is often accompanied by worship of the demigods. But this book by Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Satkriya Saradipika, which means it shines a light on the samskaras. So for those who are on the path of pure devotion, it explains the different samskaras and how by following these samskaras, then one will not contradict their pure bhakti. So instead of the demigods being worshipped, it's the different expansions of the Lord are being worshipped. And he speaks quite heavily of devotees of person, of devotees who worship the demigods, it's considered an offense if they depend upon the devas rather than Krishna. Anyway, Hare Krishna. All right, let's read the next text, 24. Mother Rajkishore, thank you. You're ready to read. You can go ahead.
Aham hi sarva yagnanam bhukta cha prabhurev cha na tu mam abhijananti tatvenaschavanti te. Translation: I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature falls down. Purport. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yagna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yagna means Vishnu. In the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying Yagna or Vishnu. The perfect form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for some temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now in this verse, so it's being explained that what actually happens to such worshippers. Yeah. So those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature and do not worship Krishna, they fall down. So fall down means they just return to the cycle of birth and death again and again and again. They do not obtain liberation from samsara. Yeah. All right. Any other questions here?
Will it also mean that they will not progress in devotional life?
For sure. Worship of demigods is very much on the platform of give and take. It is not, you cannot really say there may be a shadow, a resemblance, but it's not actually devotion. So devotion in that sense can only be used in relationship to worship of Krishna. That's the main point of those who worship the demigods. It's like transcendental shopping. It's good in the sense that they accept that we are controlled by higher authorities, the demigods, and ultimately the Supreme Lord. And so they act piously and religiously, but in order to fulfill their material desires. Yeah. So what's your point again, Mother? You mentioned? Mother Rajkishore, you mentioned?
That they will stop progressing in devotional life.
Oh yeah, they stop progressing. They don't progress. Yeah, because it is not devotional. Now, having said that, I think I mentioned before, there are some persons who worship the demigods as directly representatives of the Supreme Lord. You know, so they know the position of the demigods in relationship to the Supreme Lord. So therefore, that worship leads them to liberation.
What about worshipping Tulsi Devi? Because if we worship Tulsi Devi, we progress in devotional life.
Yeah, why'd you say that? What's your concept of Tulsi Devi? How can she be mistaken to be a demigod?
Or because it's written Devi. Devi means she's a demigoddess. That's how I understood.
Yeah, Devi, as far as I know, it's an address to a feminine. It's
Yeah.
feminine as like Tulsi Devi. Yeah, Devi, Devi, demigods, but Devi in the context of Tulsi is referring to her as being a maidservant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so don't worry. Worshipping Tulsi is not,
The Devi Dasi. All Matajis are called Devi Dasis.
yeah, good point. Yeah. Yeah, so we worship Tulsi Devi to become a follower of the maidservants of Radharani of Vrindavan. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like devotion. Like if you go to a demigod temple, people will bow down, they will ring bells, they will offer prayers, and in one sense you could say they are devotional. They are devotionally inclined to the devas. But actually, from the perspective of Ananya Bhakti, which is characterized by not wanting anything, not being concerned about the results, but just worshipping Krishna out of love and affection, then it's not actually devotion in the full sense of the term.
Are they not going to become demigods then? Because
Well,
they said
that's described in the next verse.
Yeah.
They may not become demigods, but they may go to the demigods.
Planet. Yeah.
Yanti Deva Vadan Devam, and that's going to be mentioned in the next verse. Yeah.
I think, Prabhu, as I remember, devotion, the word devotion, we cannot use in any other worship other than Lord's for Krishna.
Yeah, that's mentioned earlier on. It is mentioned, Prabhupada
Yes.
mentions it earlier on in the purple. Yeah,
Yeah.
he mentions that. If you manage to find it, or if you manage to know where it is, you can let us know and we can read that. But
Okay.
yeah. One second, someone. Okay. And at the end here, if you do have material desire, the recommendation is that you go to Krishna. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he'd better pray for it to the Supreme Lord. Now, akama or moksha kama deeds. So, although that is not pure devotion, yeah. So it's recommended in the Bhagavatam. Akama, what's it? Akama, kama, moksha kama, or vadadadi tifrena bhakti yogena yojeti purusham param. Because the demigods are just doing their duty. And even there's stories of anyone can recite persons who worship demigods, which had a disastrous effect for universe, for the order of the universe.
he tried to build a ladder to heaven.
Hiranyakashipu, Ravana.
Yeah. They was worshipping Shiva, Brahma. So Shiva and Brahma, for example, they're just like, they're just doing their specific duties, and they may well give their worshippers the results they are asking, even if it may cause some disturbance. And there was, there's one story which I think is mentioned in the Krishna book, the story of Vrikasura, not Vrichasura, Vrikasura, who was worshipping Shiva. And he was cutting his flesh and offering it as oblations into the fire, so he could have darshan of Shiva. And then it got to such an extent that he was going to cut his own head off. Anyway, devotees, we know this story. Then Lord Shiva appeared, and what did he ask for? Anyone can remember what he asked for?
If I put my
if-
hand on somebody's head, that person's head will blow off.
Yeah, it will blow off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the story. I've heard it's told in different ways, but one explanation I heard that this Vrikashura, he became attracted to Lord Shiva's wife, Parvati. So he wanted to touch Lord Shiva's head so that he would die and then he could enjoy Parvati. That's one telling of the story. So then Lord Shiva, I think he goes to Vishnu, isn't it? And Vishnu appears as a young boy, as a young man or a young boy, and he asked Vrikashura, "What are you doing?" So he explained, "I got this benediction for Lord Shiva, and I'm going to touch his head." So he said, "Well, you don't believe anything that Lord Shiva says, do you? You know, have you seen have you seen who he hangs out with? Have you seen where he lives? Have you seen where he sleeps? Have you seen the people he hangs around with? How can you trust him? Just see, look, you can tell. You just touch your own head." And you guess what happened? He touched his own head, and boom. So that story is told in regards to, demigod, those who worship demigods. So it's just like someone, someone owns a alcohol shop. They call them off licenses here. Why they call them off license, I don't know, but off license.
Prabhu, a couple of years ago, I read a story in the Indian newspaper about a couple who were worshipping Lord Shiva, and they set up a little sacrificial mandap. Is that what it's called? Little sacrificial arena, and they erected a kind of a homemade gallows, and they arranged it so they chopped their heads off, and their heads fell into the sacrificial arena. Yeah, it's a true story. Only recent history, like a couple of years ago or more.
My God.
Yeah.
There you go.
That. It's crazy.
Also, I have great respect for India and I love going there, and the piety of the people is unmistakably wonderful. But sometimes I saw a story that some man was worshipping a deity of Donald Trump.
Can I tell you a quick joke?
Anyway.
I will tell you a quick joke.
Oh,
yeah.
this is called common film stars.
Let me tell you something quick.
Film stars.
Okay, we're going off the track a bit, but Mondo is trying to tell us a joke. Go on.
There were in Australia lots of Indians, and there was a rubbish bin made of kangaroos. Before the temple, you enter, and
rubbish bin made of what?
It was a rubbish bin made from concrete or something, but it looked like a kangaroo. So some Indians took water and they went and they were doing abhishek to the kangaroo. They thought it's for abhishek. I will find it and send it. They were doing abhishek to the kangaroo, one after another one.
Anyway, at least they're doing some worship. In the West, people worship, alcohol. Anyway, point I'm getting at is that just like the demigods, just like someone owns an off license selling alcohol, someone may come in and obviously they're an alcoholic and the alcohol is killing them, but they just give the money and the person behind the counter gives the alcohol.
Barter system.
Yeah, but Krishna, if you have someone who approaches Krishna, and it may not be in pure devotion, Chaturvida bhajanti mam jana sukriti aduna. There's 4 types of reasons generally why people approach Krishna. Then because they're a soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and because, they're part and parcel of Krishna, so Krishna is everyone's father and mother, then he appreciates that they are approaching him, albeit with material desires. So then he will reciprocate with them in such a way that he will give them the shelter of his lotus feet and make them forget material forget the reasons why they originally approached him. So Krishna, because everyone is part and parcel of him, he has a fatherly affection for those who approach him, even if it may not be
like
pure
Dhruva Maharaj.
Yeah, as we mentioned many times, Dhruva Maharaj is a wonderful example. So that's why it's said here, if, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord. Okay, although that is not pure devotion.
Dhruva Maharaj.
Yes, Dhruva Maharaj, and he will thus achieve the desired result. And there was something I had from, one second, I'm going to try and, let me just share my screen again. There's something, Ramanuja gives an interesting, is it to this verse? Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen and do something. Share screen, and we can see this note I took. Share. Okay, you can see this. This is interesting from Ramanuja. I'll just read it here. This is his commentary on this verse. Yeah. Amazingly fascinating is that humans who engage in the very self-same activities of propitiation, that means worship of, that means to honor, to worship, are differentiated and classified by the simple difference of the intention and motive by which it was performed. Some performers of activities merit paltry, minimal results. So, in other words, worshiping the demigods, such as reaching the heavenly planets, and where their allotment of time there has expired, they have to start all over again. So they return to the cycle of birth and death. While other performers of the same activities merit unlimited and transcendental eternal results, such as Atma Tattva, or realization of the soul, and never lose it ever as they attain moksha or liberation from material existence. And Prabhupada, he seems to elaborate on this in text 25, that the same efforts that's being done for worship of demigods, if one just transfers that to the worship of the Lord, then the result will be great, and it will not be paltry, and it will not be minimal. It will not be minimal, and it will not be paltry. It will be eternal. So I thought that was interesting. I'm back here again. Share Bhagavad. You can see again Bhagavad Gita.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Something in the chat here. Model Mongo sent a link.
With the
Okay.
kangaroo.
Okay. Well, if anyone wants to see that joke, that worship kangaroo, you can see that. All right. Let's move on, shall we? Any other things to highlight here, or any questions? Okay.
They just show how pious they are. This is very good. In here in Western, they don't worship anything, just nonsense.
Yeah. Okay, so text 25. Let's have someone volunteer to read.
I can read.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert. Thank you. 25.
Text 25. So can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrun yanti pitar vrataha bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti mat yagino pimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Purport. If one has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destination by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose, such as the process technically known as Darsha Purnamasi. These are vividly described in the fruitive activities portion of the Vedas, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pitta planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to the many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, raksha, or pisacha. Pisacha worship is called black arts or black magic. There are many men who practice this black art, and they think that it is spiritualism. But such activities are completely materialistic. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planets of Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka, without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through the important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods, one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshipping the Pittas, achieve the Pitta planets, or by practicing the black arts, achieve the ghostly planets. Why can the pure devotee not achieve the planets of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live, and because they do not know of them, they fall down. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahma Jyoti. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead.
Okay, thank you. This was an oft verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada. And he would often quote it in the context of the misunderstanding that all forms of worship lead to the same goal. Yeah, wherever you worship or whatever you worship or whoever you worship, one will eventually achieve the same destination. It seems like it's a common misconception. And Prabhupada will often quote this verse, in regards to that. Or he would say, if you get on if you have a ticket to go to Calcutta, it's not going to take you to Australia. So, yeah. Any questions here or comments?
What's happening to people who worship football players, who worship musicians, who worship, I don't know, bags? And...
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because the tendency to adore or to worship someone above them, someone who seems to have skills or fame or some ability, it's a natural instinct in all jivas. Now that natural instinct is originally there because we're all parts and parcels of Krishna. And he, as the Supreme Lord, has all the opulences in full. So a natural constitution is to worship God or Krishna, being his parts and parcels. So you're going to see that worship is going to be manifest. It's going to be there within the jiva, but that worship will take on different forms according to the modes of material nature that one is in. So, for instance, you mentioned those who worship football players or whatever, musicians, which people do. I remember when I was young, my one cousin of mine, I was young and she was a bit older. Anyone remember the Osmonds in the 70s? Hopefully you don't.
Yes, Donny Osmond.
Yeah. Our whole bedroom had about 200 pictures of Donny Osmond all over the place. So so she was worshipping him as a god. So this is worship, but it's in a mode of ignorance. And where they go, well, it's very, you can say where they go, it's very chancy. And in other words, very, they are very much, for instance, those who worship, some people worshipping Jimi Hendrix or, So they may go to the same place as they go, which means some lower planets. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Where exactly, so it's a bit difficult to say. So, for instance, where exactly did Jimi Hendrix go? Well, judging by the way he died and the way he portrayed himself, it may be the lower planetary systems. So I don't think it manifests exactly as you follow that particular personality. But because your worship is in the mode of ignorance, then you may go to the lower planetary systems. Like here it said, those who worship, okay, one can go to many ghostly planets to become yaksha, raksha, or pisacha, etc. Black arts and black magic. This is all worship in the mode of ignorance. So generally the worship that means birth in the lower planets, maybe animal species of life, etc.
But some
Yeah.
of them, they can be Gandharvas, isn't it? Musicians usually are Gandharvas. So some of them. Or it's
I
not true.
don't know, not by their particular degraded lifestyle. No.
I mean, like this musician must.
Gandharva's Loka is a heavenly planet.
Mm.
If someone's a musician, generally that it depends. Generally, if they're musician in the sense of what we understand here, they're often they have a very degraded lifestyle. So then their next birth will be also degraded. Now, what about musicians? I guess it's getting complicated. What about musicians who are like the classical musicians? Someone worships and listens to Mozart or Beethoven. Then I don't know. Perhaps they go to, I don't know how we get to Gandharva Loka. I don't know. But the point is they take whoever they worship, because it's not Krishna, then they're subject to the cycle of birth and death. Anyway, any other comments on this? And that point I was making earlier, Prabhupada's saying here, okay, if these persons can obtain these destinations, then why is it so hard to understand that someone who worships Krishna can actually go to Vaikuntha and Krishna Loka? Yeah, Krishna says it quite clearly. Those who worship me will live with me. It's very clear. Okay. Any questions here? More? Otherwise, we can go on to text 26. Now, this is a verse I think most of us are very familiar with. And yeah. So this is the final 9 verses of this chapter. So these verses, in comparison to what has been spoken about worship of the demigods, Krishna is more or less pleading to us to actually, pleading to people to actually worship him. Yeah. For our own benefit. Yeah. So to become his exclusive devotee. So, and he's going to explain how easy that is. Yeah. So this is, and I'm going to have a read. I can't say, I shall read this one, 9:26. Okay. So already where we're going and why this verse has been spoken. Yeah. Krishna, it's the final 9 verses of this chapter. And Krishna is going to make it quite clear how we, for our own benefit, for our own ultimate benefit, we should worship Krishna. Yep. So he says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayatati tadaham bhakta uparitam ashanami parayatmanaha. So translation, if one offers me with love and devotion a flower no, excuse me, a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. Okay? For the intelligent person, it is essential to be in Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent, blissful abode for eternal happiness, as achieved as opposed to worship of the demigods. The process of achieving such a marvelous result is very, well, long purple, is very easy and can be attempted even by the poorest of the poor. Okay, so even a beggar on the street, the poorest of the poor, without any kind of qualification. So any kind of material qualification, position in society, Brahmin or not Brahmin, whatever it is not needed. The only qualification required in this connection is to be a pure devotee of the Lord. Okay? So I remember one devotee friend of mine was giving class on this, and he highlighted this sentence. Okay, the only qualification required, all right, so what's that? Is to become a pure devotee. Oh, okay. All right, well, we're trying to be pure devotees. You know, we might be struggling to a one degree or another. But we should be pure devotees, at least in intent. You know, we want to come to the level of pure devotion. Yeah. So our hearts may have the shadows of material attachment, but we're following Krishna's path, and we're following regulative principles, and we're identifying material attachment, and we are purifying ourselves of it. So our intent ultimately is to have a pure heart. So that is called a pure devotee. If you're trying to be a pure devotee, that means you're a pure devotee. Does that make sense? Yeah. Your intent is pure. So that's what Prabhupada means here. It's not as if we have to wait till we get a stamp of approval saying our heart is completely pure before we can worship Krishna. Otherwise, we might be waiting a long time. All right. All right. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. Yeah, what one is, where one is situated, what country, what caste, or whatever. The process is so easy that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. Yeah, in genuine love. No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness because it is so easy and universal. And then Prabhupada says nicely, who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method and thus attain the highest perfection of life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone because he is self-sufficient, and yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in an exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness in an exchange of love and affection. Excuse me, let me read that again. He is not in need of anything from anyone because he is self-sufficient, and yet he accepts the offering of his devotee in an exchange of love and affection. To develop Krishna consciousness is the highest perfection of life. Bhakti is mentioned twice in this verse in order to declare more emphatically that bhakti or devotional service is the only means to approach Krishna. No other condition, such as becoming a brahmana, a learned scholar, a very rich man, or a great philosopher, can induce Krishna to accept some offering. Without the basic principle of bhakti, nothing can induce the Lord to agree to accept anything from anyone. Bhakti is never causal. The process is eternal. It is the direct action in service to the absolute whole. Here, Lord Krishna, having established that he is the only enjoyer, the primeval Lord and the real object of all sacrificial offerings, reveals what types of sacrifice he desires to be offered. If one wishes to engage in devotional service to the Supreme in order to be purified and reach the goal of life, the transcendental loving service of God, then one should find out what the Lord desires of him. One who loves Krishna will give him whatever he wants, and he avoids offering anything which is undesirable or unasked. Thus, meat, fish, and eggs should not be offered to Krishna. If he desired such things as offerings, he would have said so. Instead, he clearly requests that a leaf, fruit, flowers, and water be given to him. Incense as well. Another one. He says of this offering, quote, I will accept it, unquote. Therefore, we should understand that he will not accept meat, fish, and eggs. Vegetables, grains, fruits, milk, and water are the proper foods for human beings and are prescribed by Lord Krishna himself. Whatever else we eat cannot be offered to him, since he will not accept it. Thus, we cannot be acting on the level of loving devotion if we offer such foods. In the third chapter, let me just have a quick peek, see if we can finish this. Okay.
6 minutes left.
Yeah, but any questions so far on this? Because the reading will take us right to 7 o'clock. If there's any questions up to this point, or any comments. If not, I will read on.
It's interesting how he doesn't accept from non-devotees.
Yeah, because there's no devotion there. And non-devotee means there's no actual devotion. So it's the devotion. So even if it's insignificant thing like a leaf, but Krishna is so happy with the devotion. And there's many examples in our scriptures of persons who are living very poor persons who have no material assets at all. And they are unadulterated devotees. Many examples are given.
But then he accepts, let's say, a devotee, if he is helped by a non-devotee, he's sharing the mercy to the non-devotee, and then is accepted, isn't it? Or
Run that by me again.
So let's say a person which comes someone and we give the mercy to a non-devotee.
Mercy, like we give them prashadam, we give them a book. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I mix them together.
Sorry?
I mixed them together up. I don't know. I lost the thought, the thread.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's. What's the time? 5th. Let's pause there. We've got 1 minute left, and let's finish reading this tomorrow, not next week. We can finish reading this tomorrow. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us, and hope we've picked up something here, learned a little bit about worship of the demigods and why Krishna is de-emphasizing worship of demigods. Actually, the most intelligent thing to do is to worship Krishna, because the results are eternal and everlasting. And it's a natural constitutional position. Okay. All right. So please join us tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Ram Ram Ram.
Ram Ram Hare.
Thank you, Prabhu.
15.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.